We chat with lacrosse local Andrew Fitzpatrick. Andrew, born and raised in the area, discusses his intro into music, early influences, including his time spent at lacrosse's all-ages music venue, The Warehouse. We talk about some of his work with the bands All Tiny Creatures, Cap Allen, and Boney Bear. We get into the struggles of being a musician during the pandemic, new music, and what's next for this talented musician. You can find more conversations on our website, lacrosselocal.com. I'm Amy.
And I'm Brent.
And this is Lacrosse Local.
My name is Andrew Fitzpatrick. I was born in La Crosse, Wisconsin. And I got interested in music right around 5th grade. Like growing up, my family, like we enjoyed listening to music, had a bunch of tapes and records, and we're always listening to the radio and stuff. But it wasn't a like particularly musical family. Like I didn't have people that played instruments in the family, extended family or anything. Although my dad did store his old guitar from like college in my bedroom closet, which is what, like sometime around 5th grade, I think in 5th grade, I just like randomly kind of picked it out of there and started messing around, and yeah, kept at it. In 7th grade, I think I joined my first band.
Speaking of, 7th grade, what are some of your earliest influences? I remember when we were actually in high school, a unique amount of different bands that were highly original. And I don't know if that was because of people just weren't, were amateurs and they had to go that route. But like, what was some of your earliest influences?
Well, yeah, I think that was that era, like 5th, 6th, 7th grade, like the mid 90s. It was definitely started with Nirvana for me, and then like other alternative rock, I guess, like Helmet and like Weezer's first album and Siamese Dream from Smashing Pumpkins. But like Nirvana was definitely like the gateway for me. There's a really good like biography of on Nirvana that I read around that time, and like I started investigating a lot of the influences that they kind of name drop in there, like a bunch of touch and go record stuff like Big Black, Shellac, the Jesus Lizard, Butthole Surfers, and like stuff like Flipper and Devo, which like, so having like Deaf Ear in town, it was huge to be able to like get almost, I think, all of that stuff there and to like listen to it before you buy it, which is awesome. But yeah, and then like having Dave's Guitar Shop, obviously, like spending a lot of time there, and probably annoyed, like Greg Wida and I going there all the time, probably annoyed them, but they definitely, like Jeff Sharon in particular, like aside from being an amazing guitar player, introduced me to a lot of music, like lent me Captain Beefheart Trout Mask Replica, like the original, which is probably worth a lot of money now, but lent that to me, which totally blew my world open, because it was like, wait, this was being made in 1969, like whoa. So that kind of put me on a different path, like when I was 12 or whatever. And yeah, and they all like also like Guided by Voices and Sebadoh and Pavement and stuff. They turned me onto that kind of stuff too. But simultaneously in La Crosse too, like we had an awesome music scene going on, like Space Bike, Norm's Headache, Bomb Pop, Hick, like, and they all did that like double 7-inch around that time, which was like very representative of the scene at that time. But then there are also a bunch of weirder bands like Zero Dark 30, like a very legit industrial band, and the Dallas S, who like they had like 30 effects pedals on stage before I knew like what exactly that was, and just like legitimately like weird stuff, especially for a city of like 50,000. It was pretty mind opening to witness that as a like 12, 13-year-old. So it kind of opened my eyes to the possibilities, like, oh, people in my town are doing this, like I want to do this too, make weird sounds in front of people or make tapes.
Now that you just nailing those off, and I always think of Workhorse Movement around that time was another band that it wasn't from the area, but it was just, there's just these highly original weird music coming out of the Warehouse.
Yeah, the Warehouse was huge for, I mean, instrumental in letting that happen. Like, oh, you're a couple of 14-year-olds, you want to play here? Sure. Like, or like, yeah, like whatever, Nine Inch Nails having played there back in the early 90s. Yeah.
So things that I've really kind of followed along with you and stuff I've really enjoyed is all the tiny creatures. What part did you play in the creation of that project?
Well, that started out as the solo project of Tom Winsek, and I mean he's still like the main songwriter producer. I met him when I was attending UW Eau Claire, and we kind of just bonded over common musical interests. We never played music together when we were living there, but kind of became friends. And then we both moved away. Like he moved to Minneapolis, I think, and I moved to Madison. And then he actually eventually moved to the Madison area a couple of years later and asked me to join this band that he was starting. And yeah, he asked me to play guitar. And yeah, we've been sort of dormant for the last, I don't know, 5 or 6 years or so, minus a couple shows here and there. But we started writing some new songs recently, slowly. But yeah, hopefully that'll see the light of day sometime soon.
Before we started recording here, you kind of talked about having a show about 1 year ago, in March. As a musician, as a traveling musician, which you are during the pandemic, what have been some of the struggles? You referenced not touring. How has this time been for you?
It's definitely been an adjustment, bit of a bummer not playing music with people. That's had been a big part of my life. And so it's weird getting used to that, and just honestly getting used to being home a lot more, because I had been traveling for most of the year, and the years prior to that. So just kind of getting used to being home a lot is a big thing. But at the same time, my wife and I had a kid about a month after the lockdown started. So I'm thankful that I've gotten to spend all this time with him. That wouldn't have happened otherwise. It would have been a lot more. There would have been a lot more things to arrange as far as like childcare and all that stuff.
Being able to spend the first year with this child, which seems like it would be something you want to give up on. You're also part of the internationally, basically world-renowned band Boney Bear. What led you down the path with those guys?
I met Justin from Boney Bear when I was going to school in UW Eau Claire as well. And like Tom, I never actually played music with him, but we bonded. And then, yeah, he moved to North Carolina with his band at the time, the Armand Edison. The same time I moved to Madison and kind of lived lives and ended up linking back up. I ended up joining Volcano Choir when they were finishing their second record, and joined the band and started touring with them. And yeah, a year or two later, he asked me to join Boney Bear, and I played my first show with them in summer 2015. And then the last show was almost exactly a year ago in Phoenix.
You have multiple projects coming up. You talked about your new music that I believe just comes out as your name, Andrew Fitzpatrick, but then you also have the band or collaboration Cap Allen. How do you describe that project?
Oh, that's evolved from where it started. Jeff Sauer and Jeff Sauer on drums, kind of started out many years ago as just guitar and drums, improv, like no meter, just kind of being inspired by like free jazz and stuff. And then it kind of turned into synthesizer and drums, improv. But then we started to kind of like gravitate towards these like sort of musical rhythmic phrases, sort of hybrid. I don't know, something somewhere in between musical and rhythmical. And then we started playing like kind of a little bit more standard songs with standard structure, if there is even standard structure. But there's a little bit more of a techno dance pop. Techno is probably not a good term to use, but yeah, it's just a weird blend of like the Residents and Coil and Devo kind of.
Yeah, just listening to, most recently what's on your Bandcamp from that, I was really surprised how dancey it was. It was interesting to see. So what else is coming up for you? Do you have a new album that you're just putting out yourself, or getting excited about 2021, potentially touring or anything like that?
Yeah, kind of just waiting for COVID to dissipate so concerts can start happening. And as it stands right now, Boney Bear has like a bunch of Europe dates scheduled for the like kind of towards the end of the year, but who knows if that'll actually happen. So kind of wait and see if that actually occurs. Yeah, in the meantime, like I said, Tom and I have slowly been working on some new All Tiny Creatures songs that'll eventually see the light of day. Same with Cap Allen. We're slowly working on a record, trying to finish that up. And yeah, I have some solo music that I'm put up a new record's worth of material on Bandcamp towards the end of this month or next month. Yeah, other than that, just kind of waiting for COVID to go away.
You and me and everybody else in the world. So where can people find out more? What's the best avenue? You have quite a few projects, but are you active on social media? Do you have a website?
I'm not super active on social media, but I'm on Instagram and Fitzpatrick, Twitter and Fitzpatrick, also my Bandcamp and Fitzpatrick. But then, yeah, boneybear.org, All Tiny Creatures, Bandcamp, Cap Allen, Bandcamp, volcanochoir.com. I think I got them all.
Lacrosse Local Podcast is a production of River Travel Media. Do you have an interview idea you'd like to share with us? Message us on Facebook at Lacrosse Local. Find out more about us at lacrosselocal.com, and you can subscribe to the Lacrosse Local Podcast on your favorite podcast app. If you like us, rate us 5 stars. We appreciate it.